So let's start. I'm Bhanumati, and I'm a life coach, relationship coach, psychotherapist, and art of living teacher. So I wish to thank Psycho Magic team for giving me this opportunity. It's an introductory workshop, and once I conduct this workshop, if you are all interested, we have four intense training modules. The first module is solution focused brief therapy general. The second is solution focused brief therapy with children and adolescents. And the third module is solution focused brief therapy exclusively with couples. And the fourth module is solution focused brief therapy with family. If you are interested, you can register for those four modules. So we can select a date and conduct the workshop. And since this is not a very popular psychotherapy techniques like CBT and REBT, so I thought let me give a brief introduction about what solution focused brief therapy is. So today we'll only be doing an introductory webinar or workshop or whichever one you wish to call it. After that, if you have any doubts after I finish the presentation, then we can get them clarified. And any doubts regarding the workshop also, we can get it clarified. Is it okay? Because I can't see anybody. Even if you are going to give a thumbs up, I'll not be able to see. So I'll carry on with the presentation. Okay. Solution focused brief. Let me do it. Yeah. Solution focused brief therapy is a widely used psychotherapy technique developed by Steve Dusisher and Insu Kimberg in the late 1970s at the Brief Family Therapy Center in Milwaukee. After 1970, there has been a lot of changes in the solution-focused brief therapy techniques. So we will be mainly discussing about the current change. Now, how it is practiced, that's what we will be focusing. And we will also do some comparison between what it was originally in 1970s and now what are all the changes that have come, all the adaptation, modification changes. We will be discussing that. So let's see first what is solution focused brief therapy. I need to. What is solution focused brief therapy? Basically, it's an approach to change or it's an approach to transformation. Not only that, it happens at a language level. It can also be called as a language based therapy because it happens at a language level, and it's called brief therapy. That is why the reason why it's called brief therapy is it accomplishes rapid and sustainable change in a time effective way. Time effective means you don't need more than 4 to 5 sessions, and every session is considered as a therapy in itself. So many of the clients don't come for the second session also because the whole therapy is done in the first session itself, and the second session is again considered as a fresh therapy session because, as I said, it's an approach to transformation. When they come for the second session, they have already transformed the personality. Say suppose the client, if I call the client as A, and the first session the A personality and the second session A personality are two different personalities, because by now they would have changed, they would have had transformation in their life. So that's why it is called an that's why it accomplishes change or transformation in a very, very rapid way. And also, not only rapid, it is sustainable also, and in a time effective way. Time effective means it is shortest form. That's why it's called brief. Then it's an evidence based approach. Initially, there was a criticism from other therapists that solution focused brief therapy is a band aid approach. It is not applicable to serious problems, only superficial problems. But no, they have done a lot of research on it, and they have found that it really works irrespective of the problem. That's why it's called evidence based approach. then it is a non-normative approach. Let's see what we mean by non-normative. Before that, I want to explain what is a normative approach. In a normative approach, what happens? The client goes to a therapist. Client talks about the problem. The therapist listens to the problem. Then the therapist explores the problem, refers to DSM-5 or ICD-10. My trainer was, I have 3, 4 trainers. I have been trained under 3, 4 distinguished people. One of my trainer, Dr. Arnold Hubers, used to say DSM means dark side of man. So then the therapist, they refer to DSM-5 or ICD-10. Then they diagnose what the problem is. Then they prescribe a solution. That is a normal approach, which is done in CBT, REBT, or psychoanalytical therapy, or whichever psychotherapy. But here, it's a non-normative approach. What do we mean by it? As a therapist, we need to give up the desire to know about the problem, because we don't talk about the problem. We only talk about the solution. We should give up the desire to know about the cause of the problem. And we should even give up the desire to find a solution or prescribe a solution to the problem. And we should give up the desire that we need to decide what the client needs to do. No, it is client decides what they want. So basically, this is what it means when we say it's a non-normative approach. It is not the usual approach practiced by CBT therapists or REBT therapists or other DBT, other therapists. Now, it is a very, very simple technique, but it is language based. So we have to be expert in solution focused language. It is simple, effective, and helps people find a way to move forward towards a better future. And it is a shift between what is wrong to what is it. Other therapies and all, they focus on what is wrong, but this therapy is a shift from what is wrong to what is it that the client wants to achieve, and what is it that the client feels is right for them, rather than the therapist deciding what is right for the client. So Steve Disher says, problem talk leads to more problems or creates more problem, and solution talk creates or leads to more solution. So we need to remember we are not problem solvers, but we are heart healers. Our job is to lift people up. Once we lift people up, once we heal them, then they themselves will do whatever has to be done to resolve their problem. Basically, we are lifting them up so that they are able to resolve the problem themselves, or even if they are not able to resolve the problem, at least they will be able to endure the unchangeable circumstances. For example, loss of job or loss of a loved one, that is grief, etc. So that is what it is meant when he says that we are not problem solvers. Now let's see, who is this SFBT for? It is an appropriate approach where change is required because you are stuck in a life situation, but we feel you are stuck in a life situation where you need to find a way forward. For example, you means I'm talking about the client. Client is stuck in a situation, but they want to find a way forward to deal with the situation, and where change is desired or required. It's not the solution to the problem, but change, that is transformation, is required. And since it's a brief therapy, it works almost instantly, because the first session itself is a total therapy session. In other therapies and all, you need 8 to 10 sessions, and all put together becomes a therapy. Here, each and every session is a therapy in itself. And as I said before, it works very fast, and in a brief moment of time, it brings about transformation or change. And it is not only used for individuals, it can be used for families, organization, group settings, etc. And all you need to use this approach is a growth mindset, nothing else. Why choose SBT over other therapies? Because it is lightness, simplicity, minimalistic intervention. As I said, brief, minimalistic intervention. Solution focused brief therapists believe that people have better things to do than spend time talking to us. Like 5, 10, 8, 10 sessions, they have better things to do. And they also believe, Insu Kimberg and Steve Desisha believe that life is very much for living and not for sulking or complaining or regretting. So if we can effectively use fewer means, effectively bring change using fewer means, why do we need 8 to 10 sessions? And not only that, it is pocket friendly for the clients because, as I said, maximum 5 sessions, and each session is a therapy in itself. Of course, for a therapist, it's not pocket friendly because even after the first session, the client is okay and doesn't require a second session. For a therapist, it's not pocket friendly, but for the client, definitely it is. Then, as I said before, no need to understand the problem, no need to diagnose the problem, no need to use the dark side of man, that is DSM-5 or ICD-10, and no need to label the client as bipolar, borderline, OCD, schizophrenia. No, it honors the autonomy of the client. Clients are the experts of their life, so they should be given the ownership of their life. This is what solution focused brief therapists believe. And not only that, at the end of the session, clients should be able to pat themselves and say, hooray, I did it myself. They should be able to say that rather than that therapist taking the credit, I treated him or I found the solution for him. No, they should pat themselves and say they should take the credit for it and also the responsibility for their life. So then only if the change will take place, because once they say I did it myself, it is more associated with change. Not only associated with change, sustainability is also there. That is maintenance of change. Then the client takes not only the credit, they also take responsibility. Once you take responsibility for yourself, you feel very, very powerful. I'm an art of living teacher. So my Guruji always says responsibility is equal to power and irresponsibility or non-responsibility is equal to complaint. Those who don't take responsibility for their life, they will keep on complaining. Life is not good. People are not good. Oh, why mera hi naseeb kyun futi hai, and all those things. But the moment you take responsibility, you feel really powerful. And not only that, when you take responsibility, you have more choices in your hands for a better future that you want. So here it is where the solution focused brief therapists believe in honoring the autonomy of the client. What makes SFBT different from other approaches? Because each and every conversation itself is different. And because it's a language based approach, so each and every conversation is different. It builds towards what the client wants, that is their desired outcome. DO means desired outcome. It builds towards what the client wants from the therapy session, their desired outcome, and using their own resources, not the therapist's resources. It teaches the clients how, it teaches us, a therapist, how to access our clients' strengths and resources. And the resources can be personal, internal resource, external resource also. And that we need to facilitate our client to use those resources to overcome any obstacles that comes in the way of bringing a transformation or change in their life. Then focus is on the details of change and not the problem, because it's a solution focused approach and not a problem focused approach. So focus is on the details of the change, and it is tailored to each client's language because it's a language based approach. It is tailored to each client's language in each and every session. So client is the center. They will only, and all our questions are framed around all the language that the client uses, the words that we don't do paraphrasing and all. Whatever words the client uses, that we pick and then we ask our next question. It is not that you ask the right question. Here, SFBT says, don't ask the right question, ask the next question. So how do you know what is the next question? You take from what the client says, because the client their language exactly you have to copy paste and ask the next question. So change that the client describes is very powerful, because the language they are, their language in which they will describe their change, their future, which is very powerful. And it teaches you how to work effectively with any client regardless of the problem. Power of hope. The fact that power of hope, it can lift and transport us to anywhere, anytime. The fact that the client comes to you for therapy is an evidence of hope. If they did not have any hope, they will, irrespective of what their problem is. The fact that they fix an appointment, they pay you the money, they give you a call. The moment they give you a call, the transformation already starts taking place. Because the moment they give you a call, that means they are hopeful that this therapy is going to work for me, or this therapist is going to facilitate or help me in achieving my desired outcome. And when that hope is present in the environment, the client is able to not only do better, they are able to do their best. And I want to talk a little bit more about this hope. What happens is, when we talk about change, uh, there is hope is there, then our creative vision expands. But when we talk about the problem in detail, usual therapies, when you talk about the problem in detail, then the problem gets magnified, it gets zoomed. And once the problem gets magnified, you feel emotionally drained, you feel so low, you feel depressed, and your emotional vision also gets shrinks. Not only that, once your emotional vision, your vision shrinks, your physical vision shrinks, then you see limited possibilities. And your creative vision also shrinks. But when we talk about change, when we talk about hope, we lift them up. See here also the photo, the girl is lady or the girl is being lifted, and all those birds are the birds of hope. So when you are lifted to the top of the world, you have a panoramic view of your future, your huge vision about your future, and your positive vision, positive emotion expands, and your creative vision also expands. So in solution focused brief therapy, we start with small presupposition, and then we grow into a bigger, and then we move to bigger and huge presupposition. What is that presupposition? That the client is capable of changing. So that is a presupposition. Client has hope. Presupposition, the client has hopes. And presupposition, the client has all the skills and resources to bring a transformation. And the presupposition, the client has all the resources, both internal and external resources, to bring about a change. If we don't presuppose this, then we cannot move ahead with the session. So we basically believe in client strengths, skills, attributes, and possibilities. And not only that, okay, now let's go to the, okay, before this, I want to say one more thing. When we say we don't talk about the problem, only the best hopes, desire, but that doesn't mean we minimalize the problem. We listen to them, we talk to them, we all the like paraphrasing whatever has to be said, we do say that. But we at the same time we believe in the parallel. Our focus is on the parallel experience of strengths and resilience that the client has. That we will be doing in grounding. There are three ways to do it. One is grounding, and then the language, and then co-construction. So grounding, when the client comes for therapy, they are in autopilot mode. They know that they have to talk about the problems, and then the therapist will um, uh, what do I say? They will diagnose the problem, referring to they will find out the root cause of the problem, then refer to ICD-10 or DSM-5, diagnose. So they come with that mindset. And so when they are talking, we don't minimalize their problem. We paraphrase, we first build rapport building, we do, then we do active listening, just as it is done in other counseling or therapy process. Rapport building, listening skills we use, paraphrasing skills we use, reflecting skills we use, then summarizing also we do after sufficiently validating the client's problem. See, we have to keep in mind that parallelly the client has skills and resilience and hope also. So after that, we need to shift the conversation. It's like a driving, you're driving a car, and how you shift the steering wheel to the right side. So once the client has shared about the problem, you gently shift the steering wheel to from problem talk to solution talk, so that you shift the conversation. And then we ask the client, what would you like to be going on in your life, instead of whatever the problem they have said. Or we can even say, what would you like your life to be, instead of. So there also they will say what their desired outcome is. So this grounding is very, very important actually. Grounding is basically rapport building, effective questioning skills, all these forms, and then gradually shifting to from problem talk to solution talk. So, and then comes the language. How do we do the grounding? Through language. Because it's solution focused brief therapy is a language based therapy. And we use a lot of reframing also, especially in children and adolescent counseling. We use constructive language, which we also call it as reframing, because when parents bring their small children, they have lot of labeling. My child does this, my child does that, he doesn't do this. Lot of negative labeling the children, they bring their complaints and negative labeling. But behind every negative behavior or maladaptive behavior, behind every negative label, there is a strength. It's like two sides of a coin. If there is a head, there has to be a tail. There has to be some strength behind that so-called maladaptive behavior. So that we use constructive language by reframing it. So when you will be doing the workshop where you will extensively learn solution focused with therapy with children and adolescents, I will be teaching you how to reframe whatever negative label the child has, whatever negative behavior the child exhibits, the positive intention is there behind that particular behavior. We will extensively talk about this reframing when we do that particular module. And here, not only reframing, we have to choose those words that demand specificity, not generalized statement. Specificity means the best, most, first. Like, what is the first sign that will tell you that a change has taken place? What is the most important thing that is in your life? Or what are your best hopes from this therapy session? So this, it has to be very, very specific actually. Like, what would you be most pleased to see yourself doing? So similar words we will be using. For example, the client may say, I don't want to be depressed. That's a negative statement. Then we would say, okay, you don't want to be depressed, then what would you like to be instead of being depressed? We don't do research on depression. We don't do bed depression inventory. We don't give them and analyze what is the percentage of no. Instead of depression, it's because we believe that parallelly the client may be depressed, but at the same time, parallelly they may have strength and resilience, and they can lead a normal life, not that, and they can be successful in their life. So we ask them, what would you like instead of being depressed? So whatever they say, then we all our session goes around that particular desired outcome. So we need to remember that we need to pay attention to, basically we need to pay attention to client's language. What kind of words is a client using, and what kind of words as a therapist are you listening? So from whatever they talk, you need to pick the skills, you need to pick the abilities, their strengths, their internal resources, in their external resources. What I mean by external resources, significant others who may help them, their best friends, their parents or relatives, or even the therapist. If they are under medication, it is the psychiatrist also who becomes an external resource. And what kind of word they are using, we need to be very attentive. That is why it's active listening. And what kind of words you are using, that is also very, very, very important, because you have to use a solution focused language and you have to use a constructive language. So what kind of words you are going to use, and not only that, intention behind that questioning, because it has to be around it. All the questioning has to be, all the language has to be around the desired outcome. So interaction between you and the client has to be problem free talk, and it has to be totally focused on the desired outcome. So the researchers have found out that therapist uses only 5 to 7% of the words that the client uses. This 5 to 7%, which the therapist picks from the client's language, that should be connected to the desired outcome. Not only that, it has to be consistent with the desired outcome, and it has to be connected to the transformation that the client is hoping to achieve. Next is co-construction. It is not the therapist who decides what should happen in the session, and not the client also. It's a co-construction. Client brings expertise about their life. They only know what is happening in their life. We don't know. So they only know the contents of their life. They only know the best hopes, what is their desired outcome from the therapy session. And they only know what their life would be once their desired outcome is achieved. So client is, since they are the expert of their life, they bring about the expertise, and we as therapists bring our expertise around the language, around all these different ideas the client uses. We as a facilitator, we will be bringing our expertise. So that is why SFBT happens at the language level. Am I clear? Somebody can unmute and say yes, because I can't see. Even if you give a thumbs up, I will not know. Can any of you unmute and say yes? Then I'll proceed further. No? Okay, then I'll proceed further. Okay. There are 3 essentials mindset to solution focused brief therapy, which we call as BOD. What is B? B is belief. Belief that we need to, as a therapist, we need to believe that the client is capable of change. We need to have belief in our client's capabilities for change. It is in the activity of answering questions, there is a potential for change. Then outcome. Outcome is not a goal. It is the desired outcome that the client wants to achieve from the therapy session. It is not goal. I'll explain to you later. The conversation should be around the desired outcome which the client hopes to achieve, not any other conversation. Then description, detailed description of the presence of the desired outcome, both past and the future, which they can use in the present to accomplish change in their life. Then we adopting this BOD mindset or stance, that we need to adopt that the client is strong and capable. A client is a strong and capable individual and a worthwhile contributor, because they are the major contributor to bring a transformation in their life. We are just facilitators. So we have done with that. Okay. Now there are, how do you do the session? There are 3 steps to SFBT. Step 1, desired outcome, and which is not a goal, I'll be explaining. Second is detailed description of the desired outcome, past, present, and future. And step 3 is the SFBT session ends in a very specific way which honors the autonomy of the client. So desired outcome, step 1. Every session starts with the desired outcome. And desired outcome is not a goal. What do we mean by that? Say, for example, if you ask your client, what are your best hopes from our talking together? They may state a goal. They may say, for example, I want to be a doctor. That's a goal. Then we need to ask that, okay, if you become a doctor, what difference it will make in your life? That difference is the outcome. Then the client may say, oh, I may be able to serve the sick people, or I may be able to, I have a dream vision of going to the village and serving the treating underprivileged people. Then I'll make more money. I'll have lot of money and I'll buy a house. I'll buy a car. I'll take my parents for Europe tour. These are all the desired outcome. But goal is becoming a doctor. Once you become a doctor, how your life will change, what difference it will make, that is the desired outcome. So once they can envision their future, their life, how it will look once they achieve their goal, then they will start working towards achieving their goal, because the outcome has to be very, very attractive. That has to bring a change in their life. So every solution focused based therapy starts with the desired outcome. What outcome is the client hoping to achieve while working with the therapist? And that's why it's a outcome driven approach and not a goal driven approach. And then detailed description of the desired outcome. The whole session has to be about past, present, and future, where the desired outcome is was present in the past, and the desired outcome, how it will look in the future, and when it becomes a reality, and what all resources they will be using in the present to achieve that desired outcome. The whole session is around that. And the session ends in a very specific way that honors the autonomy of the client. So now let's look at the SFB model or the roadmap. That's desired outcome, that is same, best hopes, detailed description of the desired outcome. You need to have a BOD mindset, where you talk about the past, that is history of the desired outcome, where your past reminds you how strong you were, and you must have had some glimpses of your desired outcome. You must have experienced it in the past. And resources, the present, it proves how capable you are. Then it talks about the future of the desired outcome, how fantastic you can be. And then we have a scaling, which is a tool in to describe the history, resources, future. In order to expand, in order to have a detailed description, we can scaling is optional. We can use scaling as a tool to aid the detailed description of history, resource, and future. Then, as I said, it closes in a very specific way, which honors the autonomy of the client. Now, desired outcome, it's a meaningful transformation or meaningful change. And as I said before, the desired outcome is not goals. It is the best hopes and possibilities. And as I said, presupposition, hope plus expectancy. What is hope? Hope for change. Expectancy is for the process of change. Like a caterpillar, how a caterpillar has to go through it has to go through lot of hardship before it can be transformed into a butterfly. So that hope plus expectancy. Expectancy is the moment the caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, that then the change takes place. And not only that, it has to be a realistic hope, and it has to be the best hope, not a mundane day-to-day dreams. No, and it has to be the best hope. like life and death. If I don't achieve this hope, then it has to be, of course, realistic also. And if the client comes for therapy, we assume that they are motivated enough and they have the hope, and that hope is for change. So we need to trust. The therapist needs to convey hopefulness and expectancy. The therapy needs to convey hopefulness and expectancy for change. And we need to believe that meaningful change is possible. And we also need to believe in the client's capacity for change. Okay. Best hopes question. Initially, Insoo Kim Berg and Steve DeSicher adopted a different pattern of asking questions. But afterwards, in 1999, Chris Iveson, I have the fortune of being trained under Chris Iveson also. In 1999, he brought out a best hope question, which is followed by all the solution focused therapists in the uh, present present moment. Actually, I also use this question as an opening statement when I do my therapy session. So I'll be discussing in detail, word by word. I'll be explaining what are your best hopes from our talking together. So every word I'm going to explain, because it is a foundation of solution focused brief therapy. Not only that, it is an outcome driven approach. So what, if I have to pick the first word, what, then the therapist assumes that people are coming for a good reason. They might have been referred by a therapist, sorry, by a psychiatrist, or maybe correctional home, anybody, but that is immaterial. But we assume that the client has come means they have come for the therapy session for a good reason, irrespective of who has sent them and what their intention was. It is not the psychiatrist's best hope, it is not the family member's best hope, it is not the court's best hope or correctional hope. It is the client's best hopes. So we cannot move forward in our conversation unless we find out what their best hopes are. Then comes the next word, are. What are? Are means now. What the client wants now. Not what the client's desired outcome was yesterday, or what it will be what the client's desired outcome will be tomorrow. No. Now. That is why it is are. To activate at the point that they arrive for therapy. Present moment. Leading to future change. Not at some point in the past or some point in the future, no. Now. That is why this R signifies now. Then your means client is the center of the conversation, not the therapist, not the referrer, as I said, not the family member, not the psychiatrist, not the correctional home. No, the client, your best hope, not what your psychiatrist's best hope, not what is your mother's best hope, not father's best hope. No, your best hope, your. So client is a center. Then comes best hopes. It is the transformation, what transformation the client is looking for from the therapy session. So the best hopes has to really make a difference in their life. And not only that, it has to be attainable and achievable, yet best hopes. Not, it is not desires, it is not wishes, it is not any mundane everyday hope. No. Then comes your, then what are your best hopes from? It is not what the client wants to talk about in this hour, not a casual conversation. No, what the client wants to achieve from our talking together. It is what the client wants to achieve in the therapy session and wants to work together in order to achieve. So our talking together is the co-construction. As I said before, we are partners in the therapy process, both the therapist and the client. Clients brings their expertise of their own life, their best ways of doing what they want, their resources and skills and attributes and all those things they bring, and the therapist becomes a facilitator, brings with him or her the familiarity by using the constructive language actually. So what are your best hopes from our talking together means what transformation the client is looking for, or what best version of themselves that they want to achieve. What is the transformation? Best version of themselves. So Harry Corman says, if you don't know what the client wants, then you have no question to answer. So your session will not proceed unless and until you are able to know what the client's best hopes are. Then we come to history of the desired outcome. The module I said, history of the desired outcome, resources for the desired outcome, future of the desired outcome. And it is not mandatory that you have to go in this sequence. Some therapists, they don't use history at all. They focus more on future of the desired outcome. Some love to give a lot of attention on resources. So it can be future first, resources second, history later, or it can be resources first. So how you will do it, which one you will take is your choice. So I will explain each one of them. History of the desired outcome. Had it before. See, if anybody says I want to be happy, they must have tasted happiness before. So that is why it is the history of the desired outcome. And had it before, that is, and your relationship to it. It is the description of the presence of the desired outcome in the past to accomplish whatever changes they want in the present. So previously, when Ilse Kimberg and Steve Decision started, they used to call it as exception, a time when the problem was gone, or when the time when the in the past where the problem was less of a problem or less severe. So they used to call it as exception. But now we don't use exception question. We use instances, because previously when they used to talk about exceptions when the problem was less, or exceptions when the problem was absent, there still it is problem talk. When you say when the problem was less, you're focusing on the intensity of the problem. So here that's why the problem word itself is not used and the problems are not discussed. So here it is instances in the past when your desired outcome was present, or when your desired outcome was a reality and your relationship to that outcome. So it is a shift from exception of the problem to instances of the presence of the desired outcome in the past. So little parts of the solution are already in place, and our job is to invite the client to notice and do more of what is actually working. Or we invite them to describe in details the future they want, and inviting them to describe the elements of the past that they will be working now to achieve their future. So this is what we call as had it before and and their relationship to it. And for couples, we call it as honeymoon talk. When you will be learning solution focused brief therapy with couples, I'll be talking in details about this honeymoon talk. That is where you rekindle the past love. When two partners they meet, they would have any relationship. It starts with love and continues with commitment. So that it would have started with love, but somewhere the relationship might have gone sore. So we rekindle that moment when they started the relationship with love. So that's why it's called honeymoon talk, which I will be discussing in details when we will be doing the workshop on solution focused brief therapy with couples. So now I'm going to resources. Presupposition. We presuppose that all clients have skills and resources leading to meaningful change and congruent to their desired outcome. So all the skills, attributes, resources, all has to be connected to the desired outcome. So when you're talking about the resources, they may be talking about certain skills and resources, but those may not be connected to the desired outcome. So our question should be in such a way that it has to be connected, or it has to be around the desired outcome. So the language that we use, and we presuppose that everybody is inherently good, everybody has the resources, they have the skills, they have the attribute, everything they have within themselves. And if they don't have, then they can always go to external resources like friends, relatives, significant others who can be of help to them, including therapists, psychiatrists, medication. Medicines also can be a source of resources which they can use to achieve their desired outcome. Then we come to the future of the desired outcome, which before it was called as a miracle question. Now also we call it as miracle question only. But originally the idea was to help the client think about the future where the problem which was bothering them is no longer bothering them. This was how it initially started with Steve DeShizer and Insoo Kimber. For example, they used to say, when you wake up tomorrow, a miracle happens in the middle of the night when you were asleep and all your problems are solved or disappear. What would you notice? Again, the focus becomes on the problem. Problems are solved. Again, that becomes a problem focused question. But problems in reality, they don't go away. The client, they will be there. So client will find it very difficult to envision a future minus the problem, because the problem is there. It is existing. It can't disappear. But how you will deal with it, they can do it, no? So instead of visualizing the future without a problem, they can visualize the future with the presence of the desired outcome. So we can help the client describe their future where their outcome that they want to achieve, irrespective of the problem. How will it appear in the future when that desired outcome is a reality? So that is what is more important. So what we generally ask is, suppose you wake up tomorrow, suppose you go to bed and a miracle happens, and you wake up tomorrow and you find that your desired outcome is present or becomes a reality, or you're moving towards, even for them they may say, how can my desired outcome be a reality? So we can rephrase it and say, you realize that you're moving towards achieving your desired outcome. What is the first thing that you will notice? What is the first sign that will let you know that you are progressing towards achieving your desired outcome? A positive transformation has taken place in your life. In that way, gradually they will be able to envision a future where their desired outcome is present. So this is briefly the module. Now we have extra tools. Suppose while conducting the session, if you are stuck up, this tool will rescue us. That is scaling question. Scaling helps a client describe their life in a very specific way. I told you, no, it has to be very specific. It cannot be a general description. So how do we do it? With description of numbers. On a scale of 0 to 10, if 0 is the lowest, 10 is the maximum of the desired outcome, where are you now? Or when before you came for the session, on a scale of 0 to 10, if 10 is the highest of your desired outcome, 0 is the opposite, where were you? So if they say 3, okay, that's a good score. What did you do to achieve 3? What else? Who helped you achieve 3? How do you know that you were at 3 and not at 2? So all those questioning you have to ask them. Then same thing you can use for resources also. In a scale of 0 to 10, 10 is the max, your desired outcome totally present, and 0 is the opposite. Where are you now? They may say, I am at 4. Okay, what is it 4? Can you describe that 4? What skills did you use to reach that scale of 4? What resources did you use? Who else helped you? Who helped you? What did you do? So, and all the details around that current scale with the present and the resources they will be able to explain. Similarly, future, suppose they say I am at 4, tomorrow you wake up and you suddenly realize that you are moved from 4 to 4.5 or from 4 to 5. What is the first thing that you will notice that will tell you that you are not at 4 but you are at 4 or 4.5? Small presupposition. And then what else? What else? What is the first sign that will let you know? Who will notice? How will they let you know that they have noticed? What will they say? Will that please you? What else? What else? Like that, they will give a detailed description of the future. So if you have to make it into more specific, then you can use a scale. But you have to remember, you have to use a scale only for the description of the desired outcome and not for the description of the problem. So we have to remember that. Then the session closes in a very specific way where it honors the autonomy of the client. The clients should be able to choose their pathway forward. We don't give them any homework. It is an intervention. The client decides for himself, and they should be able to choose to be the best version of themselves. And we want the client to decide what changes they want in their life. If you tell them what to do, then they are not part of the change. They have to decide what they want and what is best for them, because they are the masters of their life. They are the masters of their change process. And it is an intervention that the client decides for himself. We do not say that this is what you should be. And they should be able to choose to be the best version of themselves. So what we can do is we can ask them to observe or notice all the positive things or changes in their life before coming for the next session. So this can be done before done during the closing of every session, and we can also during the start of the next session we can use this. Like we can say, what changes will you be looking out for as you go home? So this way they can tell you, they can choose to tell you what they will be doing, and they will work on it. You don't have to, like we can tell them what steps are you planning to take as you go home, then you can discuss those steps. Like action plan. When will you be doing it? What time will you do it? You can make it more specific, more measurable. How will you be doing it? Who will help you? What resources will you use? So all these things you can use in order to help them go home and do the task which they have chosen, not what you have given. And then comes the second session and so on. There are two parts to this second session. First part is every single session we have to treat it as a separate session, because in every single session there is a transformation. As I told you, A in the first session is not the same A in the second session. He is a changed person. So first part is we ask them, we take a feedback. Tell me what has been better since we met last time. What else? What else? Then the client will say, then we can say, what do you think you might have done? Because they need to take credit for it. What do you think you might have that has been associated with building these changes in your life? This way, the client takes responsibility, they take the credit also, and they are very happy. They pat themselves for becoming a different version of themselves at every session. Then treat every single session as a separate. So after taking a feedback, what changes have been made, again, you need to ask them, what are your best hopes from our talking together? What are your best hopes or desired outcome from this session? So we need to start a fresh therapy session. Then comes finally adopt stance. That is, this stance we have to adopt. A stands for autonomy. Client is not. We have to recognize that the autonomy of the client, autonomy is sacred. Difference, because SFBT is a difference-led approach. So their outcome has to make a difference in their life. Otherwise, they will not work for it. Then as I said, it's an outcome-led approach. Then we presuppose the best in the client and trust your client's capabilities, your own capabilities, and also we need to have trust in the therapy process. So before I end, I want to give you a I want to give you an example. I want you to imagine a session, imagine a scenario. So I'm going to close it. Before that, my introduction. I'm Bhanumati Das Sharma. I'm a life coach, relationship coach, and this is my phone number, email ID, and kindly visit my website. It's www.bhanumati.in. Sorry, I have to make a correction. It is small b. Yes. So stop sharing. Yes, I'm going to give you a scenario, and I just want you to visualize that and then let me know. Say you are hungry and you decide to go and eat at a restaurant. After you are sitting in the restaurant waiting for the waiter to come and take the order, and say after 15-20 minutes the waiter comes and introduces himself, and instead of asking you what you would like to eat, he starts asking you questions about your hunger. How severe is your hunger? How did you come by it? How long have you had it? Have you been hungry before? What role has your hunger played in your family? Or what is your relationship with your relatives? What disadvantages or what advantages does it have for you? What disadvantages hunger has for you? What advantages hunger has for you? And after answering, when you ask to eat after this, because you're hungrier still, the waiter first wants you to fill out a few questionnaires about hunger and probably about other matters that you did not choose yourself. But after all this, he wants you to fill up that questionnaire. Um, um, Not only that, other matters which are not important for you but important for him. After all this, you are served a meal that you did not choose yourself, but rather one that the waiter claims is good for you and has helped lot of hungry people in the past. Now my question is, what do you suppose the chances are that you will leave the restaurant satisfied and you will again visit that restaurant? Now I want you to answer, and if you have any questions, you can ask. You can unmute yourself and you can ask. Any questions? Hello? Are you there? So anybody has any doubts? Anybody has any questions? You can unmute, you can switch on your camera, because actually I could not see any one of you. So I really don't know whether you like the session or not. No questions? No response? Swapnil ji, are you there? Can you unmute them?
Yes, ma'am. Just a minute.
If they have any questions, or I would like their feedback, whether they liked it or not. Because I couldn't see their response before because I was not able to see them.
Yes, ma'am. I have given them
Yes, if
access
you
to
can
be on
unmute
camera
and
as well as
share
on mute.
your feedback or whatever questions you want to ask. And if you're interested in learning it in details, we have 4 modules. First, general is compulsory. If you don't learn the first SBT general module, you cannot proceed to the other modules. Once you learn the general module, which is compulsory, after that, if you are working with children and adolescents, You can choose to learn the second model also. Or if you prefer working with couples, you can choose a third model. Or if you are working with family, if you are a family therapist, you can choose a fourth model. But first model is compulsory because you need to learn the basics. So any questions regarding this? Whether was it useful? Any doubt? You can unmute
Hello,
and
ma'am.
yes.
My name is Bernard. Thank you so much for this SFBT session. I was very keen to do this module. In fact, Professor Windy Dryden once had shared briefly about it. But really happy to hear about it from you, ma'am. And especially because I have had clients who have come for 3 4 sessions, not many, but yes. And I realize they're corporate clients and they don't have that kind of time, or they want solutions specifically with regards to their promotion or something like that. And that's when it resonated with me that I think SFBT is something I'd like to do. So thank you so much for sharing this in detail and making it clear. I'd just like to know, ma'am, if we do this, I think there was a breakup, but how many sessions would be needed if we want to do all the 4 modules?
Actually, the general SBT general, we will require 2 days, 1.5 hours, because I have to explain whatever I've told you now. Each and every slide I have to explain in detail. Like how do you ask the best hope question? There are a lot of options in asking best hope question because initially, my experience I'll share with you in India. When I first I learned it under Dr. Arnold Hubers. Windy Dryden is an REBT trainer. I have done REBT training, single session therapy under Windy Dryden. And then, so Arnold Hubers, and we were taught this. Later on, I had the privilege of learning from Chris Iveson, then Joe George. I did children counseling from Joe George, then Elliot Connie. So, but in India, what happened was when I was very happy. Then I started asking them, what are your best hopes from our talking together? And on autopilot mode, they were only talking about their problems, the whole list of problems and all that. So that's where the grounding is very, very important. Then we should know how to shift from problem talk to solution talk. That's shifting the gear. You validate them, okay. It's because we need to trust the client that parallelly they have strengths and resilience. So how you shift the language is very, very important. So in details, suppose the first, if I ask them, what are your best hopes from talking together, they may not understand. And there will be some resistant clients like adolescents generally. I have seen when I ask them, what are your best hopes from our talking together? They say, I don't know. I don't have any best hopes. Then you are stuck. So we have certain alternate questions also, which will be taught to you in the workshop. How to ask those questions, how to bring out an answer. So those things you in details we will be discussing. We will be discussing in details the resources. It's based on broad and build theory. So all those things in detail we will be discussing. So it will take 2 days, 1.5 hours each, and then the next 2 days will be for exclusively for children and adolescents, because once you know the brief understanding for children, there is a different module because it will be more activity based. You can't ask these questions. Children below say 12 years, they won't understand so much. So all this you have a lot of activities we give, like art based activity. I'm not an art therapist. I'm talking about art based activities. You give them a lot of so doing that, they will tell you the scaling and all. Lot of artwork is there. Then there is a wonderful technique called circle technique, where the children you give them the chart paper and they love to do it. Even adults love to do it. Even I love doing it. Then for parents, when because children are always accompanied by their parents and they will have a list of complaints. So we teach the parents the reframing technique, and we ask reframing questions to the children also. We don't tell them, oh, this is what it is, then you are this. No, they also don't understand. But We ask the children reframing questions. We teach the parents reframing technique. So parents also know that if the negative behavior or maladaptive behavior, there is a positive intention behind that or there is a strength behind that maladaptive behavior, and how to change that, how to change from a tail to the head, how you look at life, and make it into a strength rather than a weakness. So that is extensively taught. Reframing, that itself takes an hour. And then for adolescent, usually a little bit I'll talk about adolescent psychology to know the teens. I have done a webinar also under Personality Care Foundation, two-part webinar on Know Your Teens webinar. So I will be teaching you about adolescent psychology, how their brain works, what is their monkey brain, amygdala, how amygdala works, how their prefrontal cortex works, why is it that they behave the way they do. All that I will be discussing. So there will be 2 days. We need 1.5 hours each. And then for couple, we don't need 1 day, 1.5 hours is more than enough. Then for family therapy also, 1 day is more than enough, because you would have already learned part of it in children and adolescents. Because family means they don't come exclusively as family. The family will come with the children's problem. So there we teach them to teach the family how to, other members of the family. So part of it you would have learned in children and adolescents. And in extensively, we will be discussing, the framework will be same. That's why first module is compulsory. And what are the challenges as a therapist you will be facing? Because it's not that easy, even though it will sound easy because it's language based. And my trainer, Elliot Connie, always says, don't ask the right question, ask the next question. How do you know what is the next question? It depends on what the client says. So what are the probable challenges you may be facing as a therapist when you're dealing with children, when you're dealing with adolescents, when you're dealing with couple, when you're dealing with family? All that extensively I'll be discussing. Keep basic, that's why first module is compulsory. After that, as you can choose from the other 3 modules. If you are not dealing with children and adolescents, you need not have to select that. And if you are only, if you want the basics plus a couple, you can opt for that. And if you want to do, and the whole package comes for 5,000 rupees. If you enroll for all the modules, you get a discount of 500 rupees. If you only enroll for the first compulsory module, it is 2,500 rupees. Rest of the modules are all 3,000 rupees. So that's how it goes.
Okay, and ma'am, quick question. Will you be sharing any resources with us, like any questionnaires, templates, and so on? And will there be a certification?
I'll be sharing a book, reference book, which you can buy from Amazon. It's called 1001 Solution Focus Question. You can, it's a resource material, you can read it. And then you'll have a lot of videos in YouTube also. So you will have videos of my trainers. You can, Dr. Arnold Huber's videos you have, Chris Iveson videos you have. But how do you learn it? Through practice. The more you practice the solution focused language, the more you become an expert.
And ma'am, the certification would be your certification or Psychomagic? How would that work?
Psychomagic certification. I'm not an organization, no? So I'm an individual.
Right.
Certificate Psychomagic.
All right. All right, ma'am. Thank you so much.
So once we have enough registrations, then we will be announcing the dates.
Okay. It would be on weekends or something, right, ma'am?
Weekends only, because that is when the participants will be available. Because weekdays means I am a little more engaged with art of healing activities also. So this June, July month, we have Shravan Mas, we have a lot of Rudra Pujas lined up and all that. So weekends means we also get more participants, and I'm also more available on weekends.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
7 to 9 7 to 8:30 like that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Any more questions? Anybody else? Any doubt? And one more, once you have learned this, you have access to the recordings all your life. Apart from that, if you have any doubts also, you can contact me personally, where I will be able to clear your doubts. Any other question? Any other doubts? Anybody wants to ask anything in today's presentation? And if you can give your feedback also. No questions? No doubts? Shall we call it a day or a night?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. Unfortunately, I couldn't see any of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Swapnil ji. We can close the
Yes.
session.
Sure, sure. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, everyone.